श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Looks like a very long gap between the last class and now, for 2-3 weeks now. अंगुष्टमात्र पुरुषः
अंगुष्टमात्र पुरुषः
ज्योतिरिवा धूमकः
ज्योतिर्वा धूमकः
ईशानो भूतभव्यस्य
ईशानो भूतभव्यस्य
त एवाद्य स उष्वः
स
स
एवाद्य
एवाद्य
स
स
उष्वः।
पुष्पः।
This is also a Mahavakya mantra, as we have seen, that Atma which you perceive in every jiva is the same as the Paramatma, who is the Lord of time, who is unaffected by time, who himself is the creator of time, if there is such a thing as time. Very interestingly, only yesterday I saw a video somebody sent me. Have you heard of Richard Feynman? He's a Nobel Physics Prize winner. I remember when we were in college, we used to read his essays, Feynman essays. He has proved mathematically that the past never goes away. Past is always there. The future is always there. There's no such thing. It's not a linear thing that you have a past which is gone and now you have a now and then you'll have a future. Not like that. So time itself, we've seen in so many different ways, is not a stable absolute. And therefore it has to be matched against something which is absolute. Anything which changes, you cannot see the change unless there is an absolute which can, from the perspective which you can see that. So everything changes. And this Ishaha, which the Lord of Bhuta Bhavyaha, which remains today, tomorrow, all these yesterday, today, tomorrow belong to the Jagat. All that, when we can see that jiva which we see in every being is non-separate from that one akhanda jiva. It is not, as you will see in the further mantras, it is not as if you go and join the samashti. The samashti is the vashti. There's no difference. Now, the problem is that we are able to see this jiva in the sense that we can able to perceive it because we see action, we see movement, we see all the other things that you see in the Jagat. How do we see that Atma, which is Nirguna? You can't see that. Then how do you equate the two? I see this jiva that is there as described as Angushtamatra Purushaha, which is there in every jiva. I can see because there is a medium through which I can see it. Because there is a medium, the Sukshma Sharira seen in this Jagat, which is all Mithya anyway, but therefore I'm able to see it within the Jagat. At least perceive it, if not physically see it. But Ishvara, Parameshwara, Brahman, there's nothing to see. That Ishvara, I am. So only way you can understand this is through the help of the Shastra. So this is Mahavakya. Angustamatra Purushaha Jyotihi va Adhumakaha. There is no the Adhumaka, the one if you assume fire and its upadhi, the smoke, you see the smoke, you infer fire. That Ishvara, if you can see the oneness, that is the truth. So this is one more statement of the Mahavakya, that Jivatma is the same as Paramatma. And we've seen this in the last class, which looks like a long time ago. And I think we've done most of the Bashyam there. Only the last bit is left. Anena
Anena
Nayamastiti cha eke
नायमस्तीति च एके
ityayam pakshaha
इत्ययं पक्षः
न्यायतः अप्राप्तः अपि
न्यायतः
अप्राप्तः
अप्राप्तः
अपि
अपि
स्ववचनेन
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 श्रुत्या प्रत्युक्तः.
श्रुत्या
श्रुत्या
प्रत्युक्तः.
प्रत्युक्तः.
By this mantra, the Shruti tells us, repeatedly tells us, and the Shruti also repeats it, pratyuktaha, tells us again, what does it tell us? That the people who are described with Nachiketa, he said, no. Some people say there is asti teke chaika nasti te chaike. Yeah. He said that, and that's it. He said that's why it's confusing. So this nasti, that is refuted. Logically, you can refuse it. But you can, Shruti itself tells you that is not possible. There is an Atma which survives, and that Atma is you. So, anena, by this mantra, Nayam asti iti chaike ityayam pakshaha. The ones who advocate, who argue that there is nothing after death of the body. Who these people who argue like that? The Charvakas. Their whole philosophy is, if there was something, I should be able to see it. There is nothing. Therefore, in this Janma, I can do what I want, because what happens later, there is nothing. There is nothing surviving the death of the body. So as long as the body is there, let me extract whatever joy and pleasure I can. Rinam kritvapi dhritam pibhet. Dhritam pibhet. You enjoy yourself. Drink a lot of ghee. You enjoy yourself, even if you have to borrow money for that. So what to borrow money? After you go, what happened? Nothing. There is no problem. Because their argument itself is that there is nothing after the body goes. Body goes, that's the end of that. And somebody else will come. You won't come back. So this kind of an argument people give, all that has been refuted by the Shruti itself. Anena, by this mantra, na ayam astiti cha eke ityayam iti ayam pakshaha. This argument, this side of the argument, he picks it up from Nachiketa's statement itself. Some people say there is something which survives death. Some people say there isn't. And these are the people who say there isn't. He picks them up and says they are refuted. There is no such, that is not possible to prove that. Just like when people argue there is nothing, you can ask them, what is Pramana? How do you say there is nothing? How do you say that after the body goes, there is nothing? Their only argument is because I can't see it. Hey, you're not going to be there to see it, according to your logic. How will you prove it? What is your pramana? What is the source of knowledge for this? It is an assumption you're making. No, I'm not making an assumption. You're saying there is something. Prove to me that there's something. What is your pramana? My pramana is very simple. My pramana is the Shastra. And if Shastra says it is there, it is there. Because I can't see it, I can't refute it. Because I can't see it, I can't say there's nothing. When you're driving, all of us have experienced this. If you're going up slope or in a curve, you can't see what the road ahead of you or what is coming on that road. Can you make an assumption there's nothing there and take an overtake other vehicle from there? Because you can't see it, you can't say it is not there. How many accidents happen because of that wrong assumption? It is there. Maybe, but you don't know. And Shastra says it is there. And I have accepted Shastra as a pramana. Then you have to accept what Shastra says. No, but that looks like illogical. Okay, I will give you logic also. Because you know that. Okay, let me ask you yourself. Why were you born? I don't know. Shastra tells you why you were born. Not only that, why were you born to these parents, your current parents? I don't know. They had to suffer me, so I was born because their prarabdha. You hit the nail on the head. There is prarabdha, no? That means what? They had done something before for which they have to now suffer you and your logic. Everywhere we see this. And in the Jagat that we know that everything is based on cause and effect. There's a cause, there's an effect. There's a cause. There's nothing there which you can't trace back to a cause. Even if you can't trace back to a cause, you know there is a cause. Nothing happens without a cause. So there has to be a cause. And then you argue that there is no. How do you argue that? Or similarly, there are so many people you know. Let us say you know somebody who is an extremely good person. He has done, to your knowledge, no wrong at all. Followed dharma all the time. And yet he has great tragedy in his life. His child dies. Why should that happen to him? As far as you know, there's no reason for him to have to suffer that. So it has to come from somewhere before. Little children, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old children come up with phenomenal skill sets of all kinds. You see some of these programs, music programs on TV, small kid, one 8-year-old kid I saw, was playing the flute is bigger than him. But look at the way he was playing. Where did that come from? He couldn't have got it in the first 3 years of his life. There's no way. So I have logic also. I have pramana also. You have neither pramana nor logic. You only have assumption, by which you make an ass of you and me. All the assumptions are like that. So this nasti paksha can be refuted by logic and can be refuted by Shastra. This what Shastra does. So Bhashyakara says, Anena nayam na ayam asti iti chaike ityayam pakshaha nyayataha by nyaya and nyaya aprapto api. Even if you think you can't get it by nyaya, although I can show you, if not direct nyaya, certainly some kind of inferential nyaya logic, which is also accepted as a source of understanding. Nyayataha apraptaha api, even though you might argue that there is no direct evidence because I can't see it. Swavachanena shrutya pratyuktaha. Shrutya pratyuktaha. Shruti repeatedly tells us, again tells us. So if you accept Shruti as a pramana, it is there. So this Shunyavadi who say there is nothing is being refuted. Not only Shunyavadi. There are other people also who give you some kind of logic. And one of them, Bhashyakara quotes, Tatha
तथा
Kshanabhangavadascha.
क्षणभङ्गवादश्च
One sect of Buddhism. It is not that all Buddhists, in fact, Buddhists generally are all people who accept Buddha as an avatar and worship Buddha. They also have reincarnation, they have rituals, they have everything that otherwise we know. But what seems to have happened, there's no evidence except for inferential evidence. There are 3 or 4 different, I think there are 4 of them, 4 schools of thought of Buddhism, which have evolved in different parts of the world. And what possibly would have happened is that when Buddha understood, we assume that Buddha knew, but he started teaching his Shishya, each one interpreted it in his own way. Why is that? Because that parampara was never there in that teaching. So when you try to teach a group of people such a subtle knowledge that there is an Atma, which is Nirguna, Nirvikara, Akhanda, Avyaya, each one interprets in his own way, based on his or her experience and his or her conclusions in life. So what possibly could have happened is that the different Shishyas of Buddha who carried the message across the world, at least across mostly the Eastern Oriental world, had their own way of thinking on it, depending on their background, their experience, and they came up with a school of thought. Because there is no parampara. So sometimes it describes andha parampara. This is probably true also of Christianity. We assume for a moment that Jesus Christ understood, But in trying to explain this to his followers, he had the same problem, that they interpreted it in the way they wanted to interpret it. So there also you have many schools. And one such school of Buddhism is called Kshana Bhangavadi. Their argument is that Atma, the truth, the absolute, is not really absolute because it is Kshanabhanga. Every instant it is there and then it dies. Bhanga is dies, get destroyed. So every Kshana it is there, it is not there. Then it is there, not there. Now you ask them, again you ask for the same thing. What is your pramana? None of them have a pramana. The best they can do is, this is what Lord Buddha said. But have you understood what he said correctly? Question mark. All right. By what logic do you say this? If it is kshanika, thought is kshanika. Thought keeps changing. If you say thought is kshanika, we will accept it. But if you say Atma is kshanika, how do you say that? If the Atma at the moment it is kshanika, how does it know it is kshanika? Unless it gets destroyed and say, oh, I'm destroyed, it can not say I'm kshanika. It doesn't know. And if it gets destroyed, who is going to say kshanika? No logic works for these kind of arguments. In fact, any Dvaita, also same problem. The idea that it should not contradict any logic is something we should understand. So, Kshanika Bhangavadi also has the same problem. They are also refuted by Shastra. Shastra is the only pramana. Like I said, Buddhists have all kinds of rituals and everything is there. They work on reincarnation. But the Kshanikavadi's argument is also an assumption. So Bhashyakara says, Tatha Kshanabhangavadaha cha. Kshanabhangavadascha. All these are refuted. So if you go back to Nachiketa's question, is there something or isn't there something? Some people argue there is something which continued. Some people argue there isn't. The ones who argue there isn't are negated. Therefore, what is there is the one that you're seeking. Etad vaitat. That is what you're seeking. It is there. There is something that survives the body. Look at the beauty of this. When you are learning in the initial stages and you accept this Jagat for what it is, then you accept that there is something which survives the body. Then you go to the next question. What is the nature of that which survives the body? How does it reappear, if at all? That becomes the real study. That thing that survives, we call Atma, we call Brahman. Then what is the relationship between that and the rest of the Jagat? What's the relation between that and I? So you start looking at something more intently. This is the study of Vedanta. So at all levels, you negate anything which contradicts what Shastra says through pramana and through tarka. That is why Shastra itself says, Shastra Anukula Tarka. Is Tarka a logic, a analysis based on Shastra? Shastra-based analysis, Shastra-based logic. By ourselves, if we get logic alone, you will get all kinds of absurd things. Logic says grass is green, the dress he is wearing is green, therefore the dress he is wearing is grass. Logic. Logic can give you very absurd kind of conclusions. So, Shastra Anukula Tarka is what we are looking for. That is how all of these are negated. Here, in this case, he's saying those who advocate Shunyatvam and the ones who advocate Shunyatvam is another school of thought of Buddhism also. There is nothing, abhava. All that is also negated by Shastra. Having now expounded this whole thing, this Valli is the Upadesha. In the last two mantras, Shastra looks at a couple of examples. These examples have to be carefully read into, not stretched beyond a point. Any example you can't stretch. Examples are meant only to clarify a certain point. If you try to fit the Drishtanta and the Drashtanta as one-to-one, you will never work. So there are two examples that are given in this. One for people who get Abheda Drishti. We saw earlier that Nanatvam is the problem. What is Nanatvam? That the one who sees a variety, multiplicity. That Nanatvam is the problem. Nanatvam leads to wrong understanding, which in turn leads to continued being caught in samsara. We've seen that earlier. How do we get that? Why do we get that? Why do we get that perception of nanatvam? Many things are given in the Shastra. Even this mantra says, for example, that the jiva which you see in every being, if you assume is like a reflection of the Atma, because there is a medium of expression available, then it will look like many different jivas, many different Atmas. Then you extend it and say, even where I cannot see the Atma, another Atma may be there. You know, one argument for people who eat non-veg is they say that animals don't have in their language, soul. Animals don't have a soul. How do you justify it? What is the logic for it? What is the source of knowledge for it? No answer. No, animals don't have. Animals are lower creatures. It's the same logic they used when they took slaves from Africa and from India. Because they had the guns, they took the slaves and treated them as animals, or worse than animals in many cases. Why? Oh, they don't have soul. So nothing has to be done. What kind of an argument is that? But that is why I don't like to use the word soul. It's such a wrong understanding of what is happening. They don't have soul. Animals don't have soul. Yeah, you can do anything to anybody. And you can justify doing anything to anybody by saying he doesn't have a soul. Come on. How do you see this multiplicity? And when you see the multiplicity, these kind of arguments can come. I see so many varieties. This is soulless variety, this is soul. I divided myself. On what basis? No basis. Because these animals can't talk, I call them without soul. I divided. And then I act accordingly. But the reason we see this multiplicity is because we are not able to perceive Atma in the original form. You can't perceive it. It is not available to your senses. What is available to your senses is what is shown by the medium of expression, Sukshma Sharira. The Sukshma Sharira needs the Sthula Sharira for its own being, recognized being. Therefore, I think I see it. I've seen 1 Atma, 2 Atma, 3 Atma, 5 Atma, 10 Atma, 100 Atma. That's how I see it. And to explain this, Shastra takes another very interesting example. Like I said, we have to take this example only to exemplify this fact that this is how we see Nanatvam, although there is only one. Another beautiful example we've seen already is one sun reflected by different reflecting surfaces look like hundreds of different suns. But what we're seeing is not the sun. One Atma only, which is I. And since I can't see it because there's I, how do I see it? Unless it's an object, I can't see it. I can't perceive it. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. Because there's I. Therefore, I only recognize what I see. Therefore, I see multiplicity. Everybody sees multiplicity, but if you think about it a little bit, you can see that this doesn't work right. There's something wrong in the logic. So to give that, to show that, there's an example that Shastra gives, which we will read. Introducing this next mantra, Bhashyakara says, Punarapi
Punarapi
Bheda Darshana Apavadam Brahmana Aha.
Vedadarshana Apavadam Brahmana Aha.
This is the example given for seeing Veda Darshana Apavadam. How do you see that Veda Darshanam? In the same Brahman, one single Brahman, which you can't see, which is not available to senses because it's you. How to explain this? One more Punaha api. It says, Yatodakam Durge Vrishtam
Yathodakam Durge
Vrishtam
Parvateshu Vidhavati
Parvateshu Vidhavati
Evam Dharman Pratak Pashyan
Evam Dharman
Dharman
Pratak
Pratapashyan
Taneva Anuvidhavati.
Taneva
Anuvidhavati
Yatha Udakam. Udakam is water. Yatha, like Udakam, Durge Vrishtam. The word Durga is very interestingly said here. It is Durgam means that which is difficult to get to, reach. Durgamaha. We also call one deity Durga. There also you can interpret like that. Very difficult to reach her. Lot of rituals to follow, a lot of lifestyle to maintain. Durga, Durgam, Gachati, with difficulty. Dhu usually indicates negativity, difficulty. So, Durgam is that which is difficult to climb. A mountain, a tall mountain. When Yatha Udakam Durge Vrishtam, Vrishta is rain. When rain falls on a very tall mountain, what happens? There's only one big stream from the top of the mountain. When the river starts, there's only one big stream. Yatha Udakam Durge Vrishtam Parvateshu Vidhavati. Parvataha is mountainous region. It flows down to lower slopes. Vidhavati. That water, that single huge stream of water flows down to the lower regions, lower mountain regions. What happens? It splits. You get a number of streams. So just like this, just like the water, one single stream and from the top of the mountain comes down and splits into so many different streams and rivulets and rivers, in the same way, Yevam, in the same way, Dharman Pratak Pashyan. What do you see when you're down near at the foothills of the mountain? You see multiple streams. In the same way, the one who sees the Atma, how do you say Atma? Dharman says. Dharma as a word has many, many meanings. And because it has many meanings, people often don't use it rightly. It has to be understood for each context. But one of the meanings of the word dharma, I think, comes from dhr dhatu, to sustain. Dharana poshanayoho. When that which sustains something, that's why you have a dharma which sustains the whole society, a dharma which sustains humankind, a dharma which regulates a group of people because it sustains them. Like I said, sometimes they get used in all kinds of situations. When all the scams were there many years ago in a coalition government, that time Prime Minister was asked, how are you allowing all this to happen? All your coalition partners are cheating the country, the people. And he said, I have to let it happen. This is coalition dharma. I don't know if you heard that. He said that openly. Dharma. It is the dharma of coalition, so I have to allow it to happen. That dharma sustains the coalition. That dharma that sustains the society. Today, in the world, because we are sitting in Kali Yuga, that dharma is not being allowed to sustain the society. humankind has dharma, which sustains humankind. Animals don't need a dharma. Where you need dharma is when you have a choice to make. As human beings, we have the ability to make a choice to do this, not do this, or do it differently. Animals are programmed. They do what they're programmed to do. So when you have the choice, on what basis do you select what to do? Dharma. So if you understand this logic of dharma, then Atma is also called dharma. Atma sustains everything, we know that. So in that sense, Atma is also dharma. So when he says here, evam dharman pratak pashyan, having seen the Atma as multiple Atmas, like the one big river starting from the top of the mountain as it flows down to the mountain and then eventually to the plains, we see that multiple rivulets and rivers and streams and brooks, like that, many people see the Atma as multiple. And sometimes arguing, like I said, that there are many things in this Jagat, different Atmas, some of them don't even have a soul. That is how I see it. So this example has to be seen, like I said, for what it is, for the example that it gives, like what it exemplifies. Don't try to go deeper into it and saying, I will extend this further. You can't. So, yathodakam durge vrishtam parvateshu vidhavati evam dharman pratak pashyan taneva anuvidhavati. We assume that, we take it for granted that there is multiplicity. The one who sees Nana, just as the water rain in the mountain runs down the slope, breaks into many, and then disappears eventually. When it comes down to the plains, either it goes, joins the sea, or it sinks underground. That is the way we also see jivas. What is one jiva which you don't see because that is somewhere on top of the mountain? You don't go to the source of the river, you see the multiplicity only. So the one who sees this, so many atmas and so many jivas, goes after them only, assumes that with the reality. Yatha durge vrishtam udakam parvateshu vidhavati evam dharman pratak pashyan evam atmanah pratak pashyan taneva anuvidhavati, goes after them. That is how Bhashyakara introduced by saying, Punaha api Veda Darshana Apavadam Brahmana aha. So you know that that is not true, that multiple brooks and rivers and rivulets you see is not the truth. The truth is you go further up and see the oneness. Therefore, Veda Darshana Apavadam. Like that, you see the multiplicity which is obvious to you. You have to go deeper into that and see the Aikyam. We read the Bashyam. Yatha udakam
यथा उदकं
durgame deshe
Durge
दुर्गमे
Durgame
देश
Deshe
utshrite
Utshrite
उच्छ्रिते
vrishtam siktam
Vrishtam
दृष्टं
Siktam
सिक्तं
yatha udakam durge means he's explaining as durgame deshe. a difficult place to climb, to go to. What is a difficult place to go to? Uttrite, a very tall mountain. So, when rain falls on a Durgame Deshe, Uttrite, on a very tall mountain, Siktam,
Siktam
Parvateshu,
Parvateshu
Parvavatsu Nimna Pradesheshu,
पर्वतवत्सु
Nimna
निम्नप्रदेशेषु
Pradesheshu
Vidhavati.
विधावति.
So that water which is falling on the top of the tall mountain, Prishtam, Siktam. Siktam actually comes from Sikt, the Sinva Dhatu, I think. That sprinkle to fall on. That Siktam Parvateshu. Parvat also means mountain, but here he is interpreting as hill. The lower ranges, the lower slopes of the mountain. Parvateshu, in this lower mountains, he explains as Parvavatsu Nimna Pradesheshu. Nimna is below, following. If you take a Sanskrit exam, or even in Hindi for that matter, they say, give the meanings of the words below or sentences below. Nimna vakyeshu, or fill the gap. Nimna is below. So in the lower slopes, it goes to the lower slopes, becomes multiple, and eventually disappears. It is Parvatsu Nimna Pradesheshu Vidhavati, flows down. And what happened in Vidhavati, Bhashyakara interprets it a little further. What does it say? Nimna Pradesheshu Vidhavati Vikirnam Sat.
विकीर्णं सत्
Vikirnam should be Vikirnam Sati
विकीर्णति
Vinashyati.
विनश्यति.
It Vikirnam means it disperses, it disappears. Kru dhatu, I think it is. It disperses, it comes to the lower slopes, becomes multiple, and disappears into the earth. So Vidhavati flows down, Vikirnam disperses, Vikirnam Sati, having dispersed into multiple things into the earth, Vinashyati. This is like what happens to Jiva. It looks like, in a similar way, that from the Paramatma comes to Jiva because of all the reasons we know. In a Mithya Jagat, and disappears. See, multiples and disappear. Vinashyati. Evam dharman.
एवं धर्मान्.
Now, dharman is what he's explaining here. Atmanaha abhinnan.
Atmanaha abhinnan.
Dharman is Atmanaha. Dharma Shabdam. Dharman. Evam dharma. In the same way that Atmanaha, abhinnan pratak pashyan, abhinnan Atmanaha. The one, any case, which has no bhinna, we've seen that no form of bhinnatvam is there in Atma. There's only one ekameva advitya Atma. Abhinnan Atmanaha dharman pratak pashyan. It sees the differences, the multitude of that. Pratak pashyan, pratageva pratishariram pashyan.
पृथगेव प्रतिशरीरं पश्यन्
Pratak pashyan is what? In every Sharira, you see different Atma. Pritak eva pratishariram pashyan. See as though there are many Atmas. I love this example of the sun and the reflected sun. You can't understand it more easily than that. And all those reflected sun look different depending upon the reflecting surface. Look dirty, look broken, look big, look small, look elongated. Very, very beautiful example to understand that the same Atma we see differently. But what we see is not really the Atma, it's only some kind of a image. So, Pritak Pashyan, he says, Pritageva Pratishariram Pashyan, seeing that in every jiva separately. Whereas what does the mantra say? The previous mantra, he said, Angushtamatra Purushaha, that which is in every jiva is the same as the Paramatma. But we see differences. And that is okay, you see differences. But if you are able to look deeper into it and see the oneness, if you're able to climb the mountain and see the origin of the whole system, then you see the only ekatvam, the aikyam. But it is difficult. Durgamaha. Pashyan taneva
Taneva
sharira bheda anuvartinaha
Sharira
Anuvartinaha
anuvidhavati
Anuvidhavati
Anubhidhavati
sharira bhedameva
Sharira
Sharira
Bhedameva
Bhedameva
पृथक् पुनः पुनः
Pratak
Pratak
Punah
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 Punaha
प्रतिपद्यते इत्यर्थः.
Pratipadyate
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 Ityartha.
Ityartha.
Ityarthaha.
Having seen this, because we only see this, like the multiple rivers we see and we give them different names. Small river, big brook, each one we give a different name. We see only that. We don't see that they are all the same. In the same way, we see the Atma in every jiva. This is the Namarupa. Everyone has a different name, different qualities, different thinking, different shape and size. Everything is different. But in and through all this, we are unable to see that one because we only see this much. Like the example says, all those tiny rivulets and big rivers and all the others, brooks and rivulets and everything else, with different names. Here also, Pratishariram Pritageva Pashyan, seeing only this, we assume that this is all there is. Taneva Sharira Bheda Anuvartinaha, the people who see these differences between the things, assume this is the only thing. Like the person who sees all those river bodies, rivers and brooks and whatever else, and sees that there are many. My river is better than your river because it's purer. Yeah, they're the same. That's why we get into all these problems, no? My religion is better than your religion. Come on. Pratishariram Pashyan Taneva Sharira Bheda Anuvartinha, the ones who follow the Sharira Bheda. Different Sharira, they see as a Sharira. And each has a different Atma. Well, think about it. How foolish can we be? Everyone sees a different sun and describes the sun. Sun is a dull object. One fellow says, sun is an oval object. One fellow's sun is a split object. It's cracked. Another fellow says, sun is a huge object. They're not different. They're the same. You're only seeing what you're seeing. like the 6 blind men of Hindustan. You know that poem, no? 6 blind people managed to reach an elephant. So different people touched the different parts of the elephant and they were told this is an elephant. So one fellow said elephant is like a column, pillar. Another fellow said elephant like a wall. It turns a fellow who touched the ear and said elephant is like a, what is it called, maram?
Fan.
Something like that, a fan. Like that each one came up with his own, because you see only what you see. You're not able to see the truth behind it. Therefore, anuvidhavati sharira bhedameva, anuvidhavati follows that. He goes there, goes after that. Anuvidhavati explains, sharira bhedam eva prutak punah punaha patipadyate. That is what I accept, because the Veda is what I see, I accept only the Veda. I remember in the beginning I said, we accept what we see, but we know that what we see may not necessarily be correct. So many examples are there. The sky is blue. We see the sky is blue, but is the sky blue? Science says no. We say the sun rises in the east. Does the sun rise? No. What we see need not necessarily be the correct thing. But this is what we say. In fact, Shastra goes the other way around. He says, if you see anything, that's mithya. 100% against what the court of law will say. What you see is the truth. They say, no, what you see is wrong. It's false, mithya. So that is why people see sharira bhedameva pratak punah punaha pratipadyate. They see the difference only again and again and again, and they say they are different. Therefore, my Atma is better than your Atma. My Atma is purer than your Atma. Like one ad used to be there, no? I think for some detergent soap. उसकी शर्ट, उसकी कमीज मेरी कमीज से सफेद क्यों? All the difference come because of perception. So the Shastra beautifully explains this, saying that there is no difference. What happens is we don't see deep enough into each one of these. In and through all of them, there is only Atma. This has talked about Abheda Darshana Apavadam. Okay, then, Bheda Darshana Apavadam. Then what happens to the person who doesn't see the Veda, who is able to see through all this, the Abheda Atma? That comes in the next mantra, which we'll look at tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.